Okay, so the WCQ is over, and I thought I would just do a very brief rundown of my experience. I did this last time, so I thought I'd do it again. For this WCQ, I played 3 different decks. These are the decks that I made. I also made this 4th one, but I never actually played it. So, this is the main deck that I played. I probably played Snake Eye the most, and it was a pretty standard Millennium list. It's playing Droll, not because Droll is like incredible in the format, it's just another way of beating the Maxi minigame. And this was very common, a lot of Snake Eye was playing Droll. And then other than that, it's just, maxing out on the Millennium cards, except for this, and then playing Fiendsmith. It's pretty standard, I don't really need to explain it. Fool Us was absolutely insane. This card is essential, you can't really survive without this, I thought, so yeah, going second you kind of just have no chance unless you draw like Fool Us or Maxi. You really need to resolve these to have like a chance, most of the time. I thought this was really good. This was definitely the best deck in the whole WCQ. There was some surprisingly good decks like Crystron, but this was a Memento as well. But this was still clearly the best deck in my opinion, and I'm glad that I played it. I kind of wish that I played more of it. Vampire is really good, Millennium is really good, Fiendsmith is really good, it's just Snake Eye, right? But I also played Branded. This is the deck that I played the second most. Maybe like 30% of my games were Branded, and like half of them were probably Snake Eye. And this was my Branded list, so it's pretty much a normal standard Branded list that I've always played. But with the addition of this, I've also been playing Uka. I thought it was going to be an interesting punish for Fiendsmith decks. I thought that because the WCQ Stage 2 was going to be like super tryhard, there was going to be an extra amount of Fiendsmith because like, Fiendsmith is the best deck, right? Fiendsmith Snake Eye. So I just expect to punish a lot of Fiendsmith decks with this. Whenever your opponent summons a light monster from the deck, from the main deck, this card punishes it, right? Because what this does is it's a hand trap, it summons itself from the hand, and then if they have a light monster on the field, you get to summon a monster whose attack equals its own defense with the same attribute. And that's this. You play this card in the Branded deck because of Uka, and the whole point is that you get to summon this with Uka, and then this is a quick effect to summon Albaz. Alright, so you get to fuse with your opponent on turn 0 basically. It's really, really strong. You can also summon Quam and Cartesia, and that is sometimes a good play. If you have a card in your hand, like Albaz already, summoning Cartesia can be even better than summoning Ecclesia, but the Ecclesia you have to play just because it allows it's the only way for the Uka to really be a solid disruptive play on its own, with no additional specific cards. So that's why you play this. It is weak to Cold Bite, it is weak to Ash, it is obviously weak to Max C, which is one of the bigger issues with Uka in my opinion. Whenever I used this and my opponent had Max C on turn 1, it was a very big punish. A very, very big punish. So yeah, it was pretty strong. Snake Eye also has this pretty nasty play where if they draw Ash, they can just Ash Ecclesia, or Ash the Uka, and then add back the Ash with Sunlight Wolf anyway, right? The Sunlight Wolf can just add it back, so they still have Ash for your Branded fusion, which is also pretty nasty. So it was pretty mid, I probably wouldn't play it again, but I decided to stick it out. I didn't really change my deck lists throughout the climb this time for some reason. I just kind of stuck to what I had made prior, and I just kept playing and playing. I didn't really edit my deck, but I probably should have taken this out. This wasn't super good, but when it did come up, it was actually kind of cool. When we got to fuse on turn 0, it pretty much won the game every time. Right, Mirror Jade on turn 0, believe it or not, is a game-winning play, right? Like, they just don't know what to do about this. You get follow-up immediately before your turn. You could send Titaniclad or Albion. It's really, really strong. Other than that, the list is pretty standard. You have to play Super Poly. I think Super Poly is the best board breaker, you have to play Fool Us, just like in Snake Eye. You need cards like this to have a chance going second. Nibiru was also really good in this Duelist Cup because Crystron plays into Nibiru, Snake Eye plays into Nibiru, Blue Eyes occasionally plays into Nibiru, Momento plays into Nibiru, and Mermail often plays into Nibiru. So I thought that the best decks, the most popular decks, were punished by Nibiru. Blue Eyes was really the worst matchup for Nibiru, and obviously Branded is an even worse matchup for Nibiru, but Branded was not very popular, which I did expect. I didn't expect Branded to be popular. It's never popular, which is always weird to me because Branded has so many fans. People love this deck, but when it actually comes to the competitive scene, very few people actually choose to commit to playing it. You very rarely see it, even when it's one of the best decks in the format, like it is now. You don't see many Branded mirror matches. You're almost always playing against something else. So I didn't expect there to be a lot of Branded, and there wasn't a lot of Branded. There was only a few here and there. So Nibiru was pretty much just good all around. Another thing that I forgot to mention, by the way, about Uka is that it also triggers when Blue Eyes summons from the deck, right? So if they use Roar, for example, and they summon from the deck, this will be triggering Uka to summon Ecclesia. And if they use Lordly Load to summon Blue Eyes from the deck, this also triggers Uka. So the Blue Eyes matchup also frequently triggers this. Another card that's also called Roar is Primite Roar. This also summons a light monster from the deck, right? If the opponent was playing Fiendsmith Control, which is a deck that I did expect to see a little bit. It turned out nobody was actually playing it, but I did expect it, and it also works against this card, right? Because the card they're going to be summoning is this, and this is a light monster, so I thought that Uka just had really good matchups, but it ended up having, mid matchups, because every time Snake Eye or Blue Eyes drew Maxi or Ash or Cold Bite, it was just like a huge punish for the Uka. And if you played against Crystron, this would just be a completely dead card. If you played against Mermail, this was completely dead. It's also good in the mirror, by the way, which is another matchup where this is good. Fusion Deployment summons light monsters from the deck. Titaniclad summons Quam from the deck in the end phase. So you really do get a lot of mileage out of this in the mirror match. Another thing that you can do with it, even if your opponent doesn't play into it, let's say they're playing Mermail or something, you can trigger it on your own summons, right? If a monster is summoned from the main deck, it does not have to be your opponent. So you can do it yourself with Deployment, with Titaniclad, Granguinol can do it. So you can also trigger it yourself, which is sometimes a pretty nice play that people don't expect. When you go to the end phase and you have a Titaniclad, and they're ready for this Titaniclad, they have the means to stop this, like you're going to summon from the deck and they think that that's all you're going to do, but then you also drop an Uka, so you summon Quam, you drop an Uka, it's pretty strong, right? It can actually be quite a big punish. And then the one other cool thing about Uka, which was surprisingly good. I mean, it was still pretty bad, it didn't come up very often considering the amount of games that I played. But it was very funny how this card also has the burn effect to inflict 300 every time your opponent summons. If Snake Eye starts with Sengenjin, then they pretty much, or any of the Millennium cards, they actually pay half their life points, right? So they're playing with 4,000. And at that point, they don't actually have a lot of life points to burn into the Uka. So what happens is if they summon Engraver from the deck, you fuse with it immediately so that they don't equip and send away the Uka. Oops, I cut a card. I cut Cartesian. You fuse with the Engraver, and then they don't have the means to remove this very easily on turn 1, because you're pretty much going to sit with your Mirror Jade if you get to summon it turn 0, and wait until Flamberge. You're pretty much not going to use it on anything except Flamberge Dragon, right? because this is the card that is the most sensitive to being banished. You want to get rid of this, it's just really, really strong to get rid of it. And this also is the card that threatens the Mirror Jade, because it can push it into the back row. So they just kind of struggle to out the Uka, which I found pretty funny sometimes. I never burned somebody, I never won a game because they were losing to the burn, but I did get them very low, and they were very clearly planning on playing around it a couple of times. Like they couldn't just summon into it. So that was my experience with the branded deck. Overall it was fine. Probably wouldn't play the Uka again, but it's fine. This is honestly just a choice. I don't mind playing it. Branded is a gamble no matter what, right? If you go first, you can lose to hand traps if you're unlucky. If you go second, you can lose to combo if you're unlucky. It's just kind of a inconsistent deck all around, right? Not in terms of drawing a starter, but in terms of winning the game, it's relatively inconsistent because you do have more lose conditions than like the Snake Eye deck. So yeah, that was my branded deck. And then the deck that I played the least, but I still played a few times, was Momento. I played this Fiendsmith Momento deck. So I recently made a spreadsheet for Momento. If you didn't know, you can check that out. I will link it in the description. And because of that, I felt pretty confident comboing with this deck. I know that it's extremely good going first. The only way to pretty much lose with this is to either be hit with a Resolve Maxi, or it's to play against a board breaker deck, like Sky Striker Tempire or something, because this deck is actually kind of weak to like Raigekis and stuff like that. You'll see that we're not playing Desiree, so my Fiendsmith end board was always Caesar, and obviously Link Materials just make Appaloosa. There's no protection against Raigeki in this deck, so decks that were playing that pretty much beat me. I had a very funny game where I made the most broken board you could possibly imagine, full combo with like Elf, Caesar, Appaloosa, SP, Creation King on the board, Combined Creation, Droplets, Party, Fusion, Ash, and it was just base in the hand as well. It was like unlosable, but my opponent just had like multiple Raigekis and Heavy Storm and Hydra, so it was like I lost. But that's the only way to lose, right? Get Maxied or get Tempide. That's the only way to lose going first. This deck is insane. It's so consistent because we're playing 40 cards, and we're playing the Fiendsmith, so Memento plus Fiendsmith makes a really high ceiling end board. Yeah, I thought this was pretty good. Everybody was hyping up Memento. Most people were hyping up this version though, the Paradise Smasher combo, which is a more pure build. You don't have to play Fiendsmith for this build. And this was the more popular build of Memento. I think most people were playing pure. I never really saw any Fiendsmith Memento. I was really the only one that chose to play Fiendsmith from what I saw. And I think the pure version is probably better. It's probably me that has it wrong, but I felt really confident with this Fiendsmith deck. Because I obviously built the spreadsheet, I'd really practiced the combos going first for this, so I just thought that I would do really well because I have them very much ingrained in my mind. But as it turned out, I just kind of gave up on this and started playing more Snake Eye. It's kind of the easier deck to just go first and combo with. So I stopped really playing this kind of early on after day one, but yeah, it was fun. I thought it was okay. Notice, by the way, that I didn't play Breakout. I didn't play this because I figured most people do not even bother imperming like Witches and Dark Blades, because not only do they know Memento punishes it really well with Bone Party, but also people were not really playing Imperm. Imperm was kind of not popular. You see that I'm not playing it in this list, and I didn't play it in Snake Eye either. The reason is because Imperm is just really low quality versus Millennium cards. Same for Vela, by the way, is exactly the same for Vela. Vela. These cards, Imperm and Vela, are so low quality against Millennium, right? If your opponent has Sangengine, even if it's their only starter, and you have an Imperm, you don't trade with it, right? Or a Vela, you just don't trade, because you can stop the zombie vampire, but then they still have 2 bodies, and that makes a full Fiendsmith combo. So 1 starter trading for 1 hand trap and they still get a Fiendsmith combo is so inefficient, and that's kind of why people didn't really play it. These cards are also really bad against Blue Eyes. Right, if you Veiler a Sage, they can still link it off, still get the field spell, still access Blue Eyes. It's just really poor, right? A lot of the time, Imperm and Veiler were really only played as cross-out targets in most lists. The only deck that was playing Veiler was really Blue Eyes, obviously, because it can search it, so... because of that, I didn't feel like there was actually much need to play Breakout, because I didn't think I would be needing to dodge many Imperms and Veilers, because there's probably no more than 1 Imperm in my Snake Eye opponent's deck, and there's probably only going to be any Veilers if my opponent is on Blue Eyes. So I just thought, I'm not going to play Breakout because Goblin, while it is combo, it's kind of a lame draw to have to draw it, so I just wanted to cut the second one. I wanted to cut the Breakout because it's kind of a weak starter, and the list ends up being 40 cards, right, if you cut those cards. So that was my objective with this, and I thought that this was pretty efficient. So yeah, in the end, how did I do? I ended up doing pretty poorly. I ended up being 44,000 was my peak. This is the highest I got. And I'm pretty disappointed with it just because I've been 54,000 before, or 55,000 in last year's WCQ. I got 5th place regionally, which was my highest, but this year I didn't do as well, so it's a little bit disappointing, but obviously we just learn, right? We just improve slightly every time. That's the goal. I learned a lot about how to sleep and prepare, so I'm definitely going to be improving on that going forward. I think it's really important to get your sleeping and your organization and your mindset organized. I think it's really, really important. People who don't play this stage 2 probably underestimate how important it is to sleep. Sleep is like the most important thing, so I'll definitely be focusing on that next time. I also think I needed slightly better discipline with deck choice. I picked 3 of these, and admittedly I kept swapping between them sometimes, and I probably shouldn't. I probably should have just stuck with one deck that I'd learned, probably Snake Eye because it's the best one, and just ran the Snake Eye for every single game with the same list unless something drastic changed and I needed to adapt to the format, right? That would be probably the most mentally stable way to approach the WCQ, right? Just learn your deck and play it and spam it, and don't let intrusive thoughts get you down. So yeah, that's how my experience went. I also made this deck, Fiendsmith, Control, Primite, but I never played it. I don't have a lot of experience playing with Primite, and I just thought, I'm not gonna bother. The WCQ is not the time to learn and test, so I just never played this. But it looks cool. I probably will test it outside of the WCQ. Yeah, so I will play this, but I didn't play it at all in the weekend. So yeah, that was my experience. I had a lot of good games. I uploaded a highlight video where I played like Josh. I had some really, really cool games with Brandon, with breaking boards. It was really cool. So check that video out if you haven't. That's probably about it though. So yeah, thanks for watching.